Jim Morrison once said, "You cannot petition the Lord with prayer," in the song The Soft Parade. I don't know exactly what he meant in that song, but I've drawn my own interpretation from that. Jesus himself once said in the book of Matthew, or is quoted as saying, that the relationship between you and the Lord should be a personal matter and discourage public prayer. So the concept of petitioning the Lord with prayer is problematic on that level, and it's also problematic on the metaphysical level. And what I mean by that is, well, metaphysics, the Greek translation is meta is after or beyond, and physics is reality. So the metaphysical concept of petitioning the Lord with prayer means that you are creating a separation between you and the Lord, that you are asking an other entity to be given something or to receive something. Now this clashes with the Eastern metaphysics. Roger Scruton once said that we are having a spiritual crisis in the West, and I've also alluded to this in some of my other videos. I agree with it. In 1883, Nietzsche announced the death of God in Thus Spoke Zoroastria. This has been pulled apart many times by many people and given various different interpretations, but I think that this correlates with the concept of the West having a spiritual crisis and Christianity changing, declining somewhat, but mainly changing in terms of the way it's interpreted. Around this time, 1883, when Nietzsche made that announcement, the British were in India, and another YouTuber called Survive the Jive said in one of his videos, very poetically, that when the British arrived in India, they came across a metaphysically far superior race, despite being the technologically superior race. So outwardly, it seemed like the British were far advanced, but on a metaphysical level, it was the other way around. I found that a very interesting concept. I'm going to read out a quote that is quite mealy, but hopefully I'll do it justice, by Max Muller, who is a 19th century Orientalist. "If I were asked under what sky the human mind has most deeply pondered over the greatest problems in life, and has found solutions to some of them which well deserve the attention of those who have studied Plato and Kant, I should point to India. And if I were to ask myself from what literature we, who have been nurtured almost exclusively on the thoughts of the Greeks and the Romans, and of one Semitic race, the Jewish, may draw the corrective which is most wanted in order to make our inner life more perfect, more comprehensive, more universal, and in fact more truly human a life, again I should point to India." Now I'm going to touch on Buddhist metaphysics, which is of course Indian, and just touch on a concept that relates to this Jim Morrison announcement, quote, lyric. So I talked about the concept of otherness. In the Buddhist metaphysical framework, there is a word called Maya, and Maya refers to the illusion of otherness, the illusion of separateness. And if we cling to Maya, if we cling to this illusion that things are separate, then we go against the natural flow of life, and this leads to suffering. Now, this slots very neatly into the Taoist framework as well, in terms of natural flow. What is natural? But this is really focusing on how the mind separates things. It categorizes things, it puts things into boxes, and it filters things out, and it discriminates from one thing to another thing, which is an essential part of our survival as an organism, as a mammal. But when we look at things on a quantum level, and I'm not going to profess to be an expert at all, but it's very hard to dispute this idea, this metaphysical concept, because it does seem on a quantum level that all things are connected, all matter is connected. And there is this problem that you have with quantum experiments where the observer becomes part of the experiment. It's very difficult to separate those two things. As soon as someone starts observing it, they become part of the experiment, and it's difficult to know what level of influence the observer is having on whatever quantum material is being observed. So this also sort of fits with the kind of pagan framework that everything is alive. And again, if you go down to the atomic level, all matter kind of is alive. It's all vibrating. Everything has a resonance. Every atom has electrons flying around, jumping around at various frequencies, at various rates. So, and all these atoms have been churned through stars and black holes and then reformulated into things, rocks, this car, this phone, me, you. We just happen to have a different set of genes and have manifested into different organisms who are experiencing and perceiving the world with our own consciousness. That seems different, but on a meta level, it's very hard to separate all things. Like I said in a previous video, the Greek word cosmos means system, and we're all part of one big system. So this is really, I'm trying to sort of add or put some kind of modern framework onto the concept of Maya to make it seem more sort of understandable or palatable. So in terms of looking to the east and prayer, instead of petitioning the Lord with prayer, if anyone still does that, I'm sure some people do, and I remember doing it many times, especially as a kid, when I was sort of trying to understand the world and I was going to various religious schools. I remember asking God for things. And Maya is things, people, objects. It's all those things. It's the illusion of separateness. So instead of doing that, it might be better to use the Eastern framework, the Indian framework. There's the concept of chakras, which is different energy frequencies that correlate with different parts of the body. But even if you don't correlate them with different parts of the body, you could think in terms of how you want to enrich your life. So rather than asking for material wealth, which you can lose, anyone can gain wealth and lose wealth. Wealth can be taken away. You know, just one election round where some socialist government comes in, you could find all your wealth being taken away by some government, as an example. So rather than that, a better idea might be to channel energy into spiritual wealth. So you could focus on your heart chakra, for instance. All of this is premeditated by the idea of meditating. So meditation, energies, frequencies, it makes a bit more sense to me. I don't know if it makes a bit more sense to you, but the Indians spent a very, very long time pondering about these questions. I'm going to finish with a quote from Chuang Tzu, who was a Taoist, on the matter of separateness and oneness. My connection with the body and its parts is dissolved. My perceptive organs are discarded, thus leaving my material form and bidding farewell to my knowledge. I become one with the great pervader. This I call sitting and forgetting all things. Thank you for watching.